Welcome to How Does Your Garden Grow? I hope you enjoy this informative gardening program.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hi.
My name is Bart, and I do all the custom containers and the workshops here at Western Nursery. Today, we're going to do more of like a floral arrangement slash plant arrangement, because a lot of the orchids by themselves are really pretty, but when we first came up with this workshop, we were going to put a bunch of orchids together in a container, and it's like, it's kind of faux pas. So what I decided is that we were going to plant in some ferns and then plant in the orchids actually in their pots so that you can take them out as they go by. Have you guys had orchids before?
I haven't, no. I had one.
And she's like, yeah, it's no longer.
It's like they're so easy to take care of.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, but.
Yeah, so let's talk about orchid care first, and then we can go. So this guy, us is in human, we put it in the plastic container. And they actually do not grow in soil. They actually have these root systems, and they grow up like this into the side of the trees. So they take the moisture from these roots. So they don't like to sit in water. They don't like to be in soil. So this is why when you look at the soil that a grower will put it in, it's very barky. So it's very aerated. The water doesn't sit in there, and it just keeps moist versus really damp.
Yep.
So with ours, we're going to actually leave it in the container so it's not planted deep into the soil, and you're going to water each orchid a little bit and then water the ferns separately. That way, because there's kind of two different things going on, but yet they look beautiful all married into each other.
And how often would we water it?
So everything's going to be once a week. Yep. But you're going to water this as far as like 3 or 4 tablespoons. Not because you're not going to be able, or you can pull out the orchid. And what I do at my house is I take the whole orchid out of the nice container, put it in the sink, wipe and water it all down like with the sprayer with like tepid water, let it drain out, and then I put it back. So you'll be able to do that after the fact too. One of the things a grower will say is to do the ice cubes.
Yeah.
But I always say to people that if you learn how to water them like they were watered in the forest, in Florida, it rains every day for 15 minutes and you're good to go. Have they ever seen ice? Probably not. So a lot of places say to put ice cubes on and it just gradually will drip through. But the problem is that it's cold water. It doesn't water the whole plant. And I think it's just an easy way to water, but a lot of times people don't have the same size ice cube. They don't, it's...
Yeah, that happens to me.
So yeah, so I always say take it out, put it in the sink, spray it all down. I don't hit the flowers, but I hit all as if it was to rain. So, put this guy back. So, this is the stem. Take this. So see how nice and green this is here? Okay, so he was done flowering, and it became very brown and brittle, so I just broke that off. But it's kind of stopped now, and it's stayed green here. So there's a good possibility that another arm will come out of that. So I never cut this until you can actually like break it off. Like this guy here, put on a new shoot. There's you can see there's another bud coming on the tips of here. So a lot of people will see the blooms go by and they throw the plant out or they cut these down, but you're actually taking like maybe a month to 6 months off of actually having more flowers. So patience is a virtue with orchids. A lot of times when this is all the way down and you're just having the greens, it will take about 90 days just to chill out, and then 90 days to put up a new arm, and then usually 90 days to bloom. But then if you get those extra shoots off, it can go for quite a while. If you look behind you, there's a bowl of orchids that was actually made in February. So it's still in bloom. So it's doing really well. And I literally take the hose to that and just water it right down, let it drain out, and it's good to go. So I picked this orchid too. See how the leaves are really flat? And you can see that, like, it wrinkling. That means it's really dry. Okay? So this is a good way of saying, oh, I'm not watering it enough, because it's really just sucking all that water out. If you feel your orchids that you have, look how dense and thick those leaves are. You can feel the difference on that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so visually you can really tell too of what, if the plant's getting too much, too little. So. So orchids are tropical. So I decided that we would use tropical foliage like ferns, things of that nature, that actually work and grow where the orchids are. So it's still the same world per se. Or the ferns will give you different texture, so like a lot of the blues you have, the mosses will crawl down. This is a rabbit's foot fern, which is beautiful. So it puts out these roots, right? And once that's planted over, those roots will come down and over that container. And it's really pretty because the actual fern come out of those roots. That's why they call it a rabbit's foot, because it's nice and fuzzy. Yeah. Is that cool? Maidenhair fern, very delicate, very soft. A little temperamental about if you let it dry out, it doesn't come back so well, but it's very beautiful. It's one of the more popular ferns, along with Boston fern. So, and this guy here, the new growth on these guys turn red, and then once it matures, then it goes back into the green, which is really pretty. So you get different color schemes going on there. So what we're going to do first is we're going to fill the container. I did put holes in it, so remember, if you're putting that on the nice wood dining room table, to put it in the sink to water, let it dry off so it doesn't hurt any of the furniture. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill this up to about the black line up here with soil. So we use the Fafford Professional Potting Mix. You can see the color of that has the moisture in it. You can also look when it's dry, it will become much lighter in color. So visually, again, you can be like, oh, I need to water that. So there's a lot of tales to look at to say not enough water, too much water, things like that. And you can see it's very nice and fluffy, so it's really nice for aeration for ferns, because it doesn't like to be compact. So what we're going to do is fill your containers up with the moss, and then we'll place your orchids where you want those guys, and then we'll plant around it. So dig right in. It's all about getting your hands dirty. Yep. So lighting. Think about where orchids will grow. They grow up into trees, so it's going to be dappled sunlight. There won't be any direct, really, sun in there. Ferns grow on the forest floor, so they don't get any sunlight either. So this is a really good away from the window, on the dining room table, where it doesn't get that full direct sun. Okay. If you do too much sun, it literally gets a sunburn on the leaf, and you'll see it'll just start to turn really crispy brown, and it's like you'll know right away within like a day. You'll be like, oh, so okay. So now you got the soil in there. And we're going to put some biotone. This is a root starter. This helps get all the roots start quicker, and it helps the plant put down the roots, and then the plant grows much faster.
Is this for all plants? Like,
You can put anything that you plant. So like anything that's putting down roots.
Oh.
So your veggies, your houseplants, annuals, trees, shrubs, perennials do really well with that. And you can kind of mix that in. I did an experiment where everyone was talking about this, and I wasn't sure how different it made. So I did 2 containers, one with and one without. And it took a lot longer to get the roots to go down, and then the plant grew, and then the plant bloomed. The other one with the biotone actually grew quicker because the roots went down faster, and then it settled into the container. So it's like hot sauce. You use it on everything. Okay. So now what you're going to do is look at your orchids, and you can see how they, how they grow to the left, to the right, and you kind of want to place them, kind of seeing how you want to look at them. Like, if you're going to have it on your table, is it going to be seen all the way around? Is it going to be up against, a table against the wall? How do you want to see that? How are you going to present that? So once you kind of have an idea, what you do is I usually take 2 fingers, and you just make a nice little hole, and that's going to sit right there, and you kind of just pack the soil around, but not on top, because we want as much of the air to be able to come through that.
now, as the orchids grow, do you have to put them in a bigger container, or they can stay in this little thing?
They will stay in this for quite a while. Again, what will happen is that the leaves will get bigger, the roots. The idea, this is like perfect roots. Look how big and thick that guy is. That's exactly what you want to see. So what will happen is that they'll grow out of this little container, and that will be fine. But yeah. Yeah, a lot of people snip them, and I'm like, oh, no, that's not what you want to do. So we're kind of making this as a quick snippet of a Florida walk. So I brought in some birch branches, some rocks, some things of that we can add into all these guys. But this is like another way of just having outdoor brought indoor. So, okay. So now, what you kind of want to do is take your ferns and kind of place those guys in, kind of, I was thinking that this fern kind of fills in the gap, and I always kind of look at weight. So this orchid is really heavy, and this one is much lighter. So I would put the more dense on this side, and this guy so it kind of balances it all out, so it's not. And once you know where you're going to put them, then you can use your fingers again and put the hole in. And what will happen is within about 2 weeks, you'll start to see the ferns grow, and the root systems will start to work their way around, and then you'll be able to pull this orchid out, water it, and put it right back in, because that hole will stay right where it is.
Are these leaves going to be in the way? I like the way that looks.
Yeah, that's pretty.
But
Yeah, because once you take it, dig the hole and put the plant actually in there out of the pot, it will sink in.
oh, okay.
Dang, yep. And the orchid roots or leaves will go over it. Yeah. So when I go walking around, I usually have a bag with me. Take the dogs out, and I just go and grab fun stuff that I find, and I bring it in. I have a couple of hiding spots here at Western Nursery where I know where things are, so I will go and grab stuff from there. But this is what really makes this arrangement, is when you can start detailing it with a lot of this fun stuff in there, and you make it your own. I like the gray against the greens. Cool. So now you can go through my treasures. So I always like to find out what I like. So like even just some of the stone, to kind of tuck that in there to make it softer. And I got sheet moss. That you can fill in. And the sheet moss and those kind of things will hold a lot of the moisture in too. So you won't have to maybe water it maybe every other week. But you just kind of watch how the plants adapt to the house and adapt to how much you've been watering it the first time. And you don't want to cover all of the soil because you want to be able to kind of see the change of the color. But
Is that too much, do you think?
I like that. Because, so when I look at it, right, so if you look at it from a distance, now you got high to low.
Okay.
Gives it a lot of texture.
Yes, no?
So the container for me just is the starting point, and then you start popping things in and out and about. I do some of the stuff where, I'll even take it and just lay it right in here as if it was fallen. But again, it's just like taking a piece of outside inside and enjoying it. This kind of teaches you as well that when you start going outside, you start looking at things a little bit different. I just had a bunch of trees taken down in the yard, and logs are everywhere, and I'm like, oh no, I'll keep that piece. And I told my neighbor that he could have all the wood. And I was like, oh, those will make great little stumps for the kids to sit on. Okay, well, I'll take these 7. And then I was finding some chips, and I'm like, oh, I could use that in a planter. I could do that. So I don't think he got as much as he was thinking. But I said, come next year, it'll be seasoned, and you can use it as firewood. But and so in about a week or so, you'll be able to, that will be rooted in, and then those orchids can just be pulled out really easily, and then you water it separately.
You know, we were so talented. That's pretty. I like that. It's so free flowing. It is just.
Well, it's
Having that.
when you start looking at things and you look at the way things move, you try to put it to kind of like, you don't want these guys to fight with each other, but it's enough to kind of pull. But like, I pulled this guy because you have just a little bit of the yellow tip that pulls those guys. So, like these guys have the same throat, so those pull it together.
I planned it that way.
I figured, you've done enough of the classes that hopefully I'm starting to rub off on you a little bit.
I have to be careful not to add too much. I have a tendency of keep piling.
We do a lot of the terrariums. And I'm like, okay, we're good, stop, walk away, go do some shopping, come back, see if you need it. But but you can do that with anything. Whenever you're doing yard work, you can do, it's like, even the tree guy, his job was to cut stuff down, and he was like, I had to walk away because I was like, had my hand clippers out and I was trimming stuff up. I'm like, I can do that, I can do that. But he was, you know, when you're passionate about what you're doing, you keep looking, you know, like,
know when to stop.
what else can I add, this and that, so.
That's lovely.
There you go. So any questions for me about what we did, or?
I think you've already answered them all.
So once a week, just a little bit of water. I'm not gonna get this out of there.
Yeah, so
Do I have to take this out? Or can I just?
you can put a little bit of water in there. And what you'll see is just watch your leaf,
Okay.
and then you'll see if there's not enough water on there. But within like a week or so, these guys will root in well enough that these will just, that first time you just pop it out, water it, put them back in, and then water your ferns. Because if you water it with the orchids out, that hole will cave in.
This is pretty.
So.
That addition.
What? Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, thank you for that.
Well, thanks, guys.
I'll see you.
Hope
at
you
the next
enjoy.
one.
Yes. Yeah, keep up on the website.
Website.
Or Facebook, or
thanks
Instagram, or whatever else they come up with.
No,
I
right?
usually drop in every other week.
So, very good.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, thanks, guys. Enjoy.
Thank you.